Hey guys, Toby Morrison here, and on the other end of the computer we've got Erin Enright. Hey Erin,
Hi.
how many years ago was it when you joined the program? It's quite a while ago now.
I want to say, I think it was 2014.
I just remember vividly one of the things that you kept kind of saying and commenting on, because you used to watch me do surfing online. You were like, one day, that's my dream. I just want to go surfing.
Yeah. And it's funny. I kind of forgot about that, but that was during my illness. That was something that I just like, all I want to do is like get back out there.
Yeah, I remember. Take us back to before we kind of met. Yeah, what was going on?
Yeah, so I got mono towards the end of college, and I kind of hung in there at my last year of college, but it was a really huge struggle to get through college, and I did kind of barely, because I was just so wiped out. And so I was, kind of doing the bare minimum to get by, dropping classes so that I could just try and take care of myself. But when I graduated, my body just kind of shut down. And after that, it was I'd say about like 5 years of being pretty much housebound. I had a period where I was completely bedridden for 4 months. Yeah, it was a very, very scary thing to go through, just going from this healthy college kid to someone that just struggled to get out of bed and struggled just to walk down the street. I remember just the pain of trying to just walk, and like I was so sensitive to light, even like my glands were so swollen, wouldn't have the energy to speak sometimes. Like I remember at some of my worst times, my mom put a little bell. It actually said ring for a drink. She was like one of her little like things, but she put a bell by my bed. Like I'm so exhausted, like breathing is labored. So yeah, it was a really challenging, scary time, because it's like I didn't really know what hit me, and no one else did either. And so trying to figure out what was happening, how can I get out of this? And it was just kind of a dark time. Yeah.
What were some other symptoms? Was it gut problems, brain fog, concentration? Was there anything that like really stuck out for you?
I think, yeah, the extreme exhaustion, a lot of body pain. I would have like numbness in my legs, tingling in my legs and arms, probably the brain fog. I remember when I was at some of my lower points, I had to add more curtains to my window because the light was like too stimulating for me. Yeah, and a lot of digestion. I had a really hard time digesting a lot of things. Yeah, a lot of hard time absorbing nutrients.
And one of the things that I remember you saying to me was that, you tried the best of the best, you'd gone everywhere, and it almost made you worse in a way. Like you weren't making any progress, you were feeling worse, and you were kind of getting nowhere.
Yeah, I feel like I was trying to go seek out different doctors, and I had an original doctor that had helped me to a certain point. I just wasn't getting better, so I was seeking out all these specialists and traveling to different places to go see them. And some of their treatments would help a little bit, I thought, but then I'd still kind of just wasn't really improving at all. It wasn't really until it was like with Toby and just some of those pieces, nutrition and meditation and these things that like really helped set this foundation for healing. I think that those were the key pieces. And I think too, with Toby, with your program, it's like you were just this light to help guide through all those symptoms I just listed. So I think you kind of just set up this program that could help me like figure out so many things that I wasn't going to be able to figure out on my own. It's like if I had energy, I was going to use it all, because I'm like, I finally, it's like I just didn't know how to navigate. And I think just the mind piece of all of this, living with a chronic illness, it's like I was talking to a friend recently, and she was saying she wasn't having the best time with her health recently, and like gosh, she said it's just the mind. It kind of like you can just get so lost in it, and it's like yeah, it's like you can try and be positive all the time, but it's like it is just such this tricky little thing sometimes. And so I feel like, yeah, having that guidance and finding different things, the nutrition piece, and figuring out really that piece for myself, and figuring out the meditation, and then having you be able to like kind of guide me through my routine. Without all those pieces, it's like you're not really going to be able to heal. And I think that it was just being just so young and not having experience with health issues, and then just kind of like, okay, well, what do we do, and not really knowing. But it was just this real life lesson that it's like it all comes back to ourselves, and like us being, it's really all about, I think, trusting ourselves and trusting our intuition and knowing what's right for us. And I think that I kind of got really lost prior to the turnaround in my recovery, because I think my whole life I was always like, oh, well, what does this person think? Or what is, what do these people expect of me? Or what does this expert think? And it's like, you're the expert in your life. You have the power to create the life you want to create. And I think that was like you said, really coming back to myself. And I think one of the things, like a light bulb moment for me too, was when I started being in contact with you, you kept saying, just focus on what you love, just do those things. And I was like, wait a minute, like I get to like do all the things I want to do. And I think I was so locked in like this kind of this one-way track with like college, and I had to do these things, like kind of for me, this whole kind of coming back to myself and really following my heart, that I think is a big part of it, trusting myself and just kind of not being so caught up in the external voices, and I think, like we mentioned, seeing all those doctors, a lot of them would say stuff that was really depressing and was very limiting.
Before you kind of got in control of your baseline and you just switched your focus, really, that's what it was. It was like, all right, I'm feeling like crap. I've got these really terrible symptoms, but rather than going, shit, like, how do I fix this? Or is this normal? Is this happening to me? It's like, all right, what can I do to calm myself down, calm my nervous system down, or rebuild my conditioning? Or when I'm having not so good days, what can I do in those periods? Like, that desperateness to focus on your symptoms changed to then just focusing on yourself.
Yeah. And I think that was, coming back, I think one of the other things that I took away was, like, you would always say, just focus on what you can do for yourself right now. And that was coming back to like the present moment. And I think that is so key for all of us, like with the illness and like not even knowing what's happening, and there's so many symptoms. I think that made it really easy for me to go, well, what does my body and my mind and my spirit need right in this moment? And then I'm like, okay, like I need to sleep. Okay, I need to make a green drink. It was like I could just focus on that versus like going way into the future and be like, oh, well, what about like what's going to happen when, and it's like things that are not happening. I think there's so much fear. It's like when you're like, my body isn't functioning and this is how I get through life, you start to just go down this rabbit hole of thoughts. And so it's like, let's just come back here and focus on what we can do. And I think that's the key. You
were making some good progress and you wanted to go traveling. And so I think you went for a checkup with your doctor, or you had a chat to your GP. And what did that person tell you?
He told me that I couldn't, he said, you're not well enough to travel. And he said I needed to wait at least a year or maybe 2 years before I could travel. And and I think, and what did you say to me? I forget what you said.
I basically, and you've made good, steady progress up until this point. And so you were kind of ready to do the next step, which was whatever you wanted to choose to do. And so you got on the phone with me and I said, well, first of all, like, is he you? At the end of the day, like, every single human being has their own choices. And this man or lady, it doesn't matter who it is, they're determining the choices that you're making. They don't even live inside your body. They don't feel how you feel. They haven't noticed and felt the progress that you've made. It's a very subjective comment to make. How is that truth? Thank God you didn't listen to that person and that statement, because you ended up going traveling.
That like launched me into like improving my health more. And because I was in Hawaii, which is a very like healing place that I love, and so it's like everyone has to listen to their own intuition on these things and figure out what's best for them. Because I think it's like you always said too, it's like when you're recovering, if it's a hell, yeah, you should do it. If not, maybe not. And I think that's a great thing for life as well. It's like, don't put energy into things that like aren't fulfilling or like, so I think with that trip, I knew like, oh my gosh, like I would love to go there. It's going to be healing. I'm going to feel better. But I was so scared because he said the airplane is like too much for you and all these things. And to that point, I had a lot of doctors tell me other things, like when I first got diagnosed, they said, just accept you're never going to get better. There's so many opinions out there. You just have to remember that it's like, it's your life and you have the power to create whatever you want. And even with the chronic illness, it's not easy, but it's just having that faith and just knowing like you're just going to put everything in to like help yourself heal and you'll get there. I truly believe that.
What are like, we've covered them without even realizing, but what are three kind of turning points for you, like if from the start to the finish? I think number one really sounds like it was that shift of focusing on outside, like doctors, someone help me and fix me, and then turning inwards. Was that the first pivot for you?
Yeah. And I think that just goes along with just kind of like those pieces of doing all those things for myself in my daily life. So it's like figuring out the routine, figuring out my food. So those were, I think, just those building blocks that I kind of built my foundation on. And I think that it was like the main turning point was just going inward and really focusing. And then I think just too, you showing me that it's like, oh yeah, just focus on what you love. And then I'm like, oh really? Like travel, like surfing. Another thing that I really struggled with looking back to was just like the fear, of when you go through something like this, it can be really scary. And before this, I didn't know that much about nutrition. I didn't know that much about mindset. I didn't know, like, it was like all these things I needed to learn to create this wellness in my life. And I just don't think I was, just kind of going through life doing what everyone else was doing. And then this like stopped me in my tracks. And it's like, wait a minute, like my body's telling me something is not right. I got to learn like what was required, on every level, I feel like, of myself, for my body, for my soul, for my mind. Like I got to learn all of that. And so now I feel, it's a gift to like be able to spend that time on myself and know the things that are really important to me and my overall wellness.
What was it, just for others, because I know there's a lot of people out there who are stuck. They think they've got it right, but they might not, because they're probably not curious enough, and they've almost concluded that they already get it and they know it all. They're already doing that.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I actually, when you started talking to me and you reminded me of our first phone call, I remember you started listing all the things you would cover, and you said mindset. In my mind, I remember I was like, oh, I already know all that. And because I just thought like, oh, I'm not depressed. It's like I was kind of a little bit defensive because you hear so much like it's in your head or whatnot. So I just said, oh, I don't have a problem with that. That was immediately like my reaction in my mind. But like I mentioned at the beginning, like it's not an easy thing to go through when we live in a physical world and our physical body is at such a low level. It's a challenging experience. And so I feel like to have the guidance is just so invaluable. And I think that, like I said, telling yourself you can be positive or all these different things, it's like, it's very complex. It's not an easy thing. And I think I'm constantly continuing to learn about the mind through just like different, my meditation practice and studying like different spiritual teachers. And yeah, just being open to learning and taking what resonates. And if things don't resonate, that's okay. But I think it's just being open to possibilities, because I think for so many years I was at the same level, of health, and I wasn't improving. And so I'm like, yeah, I want to do everything I can. And so it's just, you don't have to do everything that comes your way, but being open to learning, I think, is just the key to life. And then take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I think that being open in life is really key. But then in using your own intuition on what's right for you. But I do think it's being open to everything, because it's like, clearly we can all learn a lot from each other.
You've mentioned the word challenging a few times, which is really good, because I feel like people do kind of look at people who have, made progress and basically gotten their life back. They almost think it's impossible, that they didn't see you when you were bedbound and completely out of it. What's something that helped you, and I think you kind of mentioned before, but what's something that helped you get through those challenging times?
I feel like there were so many periods where it just felt really dark, and I just was like, I don't know if I'm going to get out of this. And so that's kind of the reality of it. But I think it's like having faith in yourself, knowing within that you can get through anything. My grandfather, he was a philosophy major in college, and he's 94 now. We love to talk about life and philosophy together. But recently in one of our conversations, he just said, Erin, he said, remember that you are stronger than anything that comes your way in this life. Some days it's like you just get through it. You don't know how, like you just get through it and do what you have to do. If it's watching Netflix or listening to quiet music or closing all your windows and just, breathing slowly, whatever it is, you just get through it, and tomorrow I'll try again. You just have to take it in such small increments,
What are you grateful for now?
I feel so grateful for all the people in life that I get to meet and my friends and my family. And I think that that was one of the things is I felt very, very isolated because I just felt like my tolerance for a lot of things felt very overwhelming. So now I just feel really, really grateful for people and to be able to connect. I love nature so much too. So I'm just always just over the moon to be by the ocean or out in nature. And yeah, my health. I mean, talking about this, it's pretty remarkable because the fact that I had doctors that said, just accept you're not going to get better. I'm just so grateful. And yeah, I think sometimes I still like pinch myself and be like, wow, like look how far you've come. And I was telling Toby, I was like, yeah, I've been living on my own for 2 years now. And for so many years, I was at home with my parents for about like 5 or 6 years. I just didn't really know if I would ever be able to be strong enough to live on my own. So I think that's a really big gift. I'm just really grateful for.
What are you up to these days?
Yeah, so I moved out about like 2 years ago, and I live in this little like beach community that I absolutely love. I'm right by the ocean, so I've been surfing and doing a lot of yoga, and I have my dog and traveling, and yeah, just really grateful for all of it.
What would you say to these people who are watching?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've touched on some of it already, but I think it's like, just know that it's possible and don't ever let anyone tell you it's not. I really think it is so much about coming back to ourselves and trusting ourselves and listening to ourselves. And this illness showed me where I wasn't in alignment with myself on like every level. So it was kind of re-navigating and figuring out what I needed and what I wanted to create. And I think just knowing that's possible for everyone. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really grateful.
Thanks, Erin. Speak to you soon.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.